The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
The radio show is about to begin. It might just ring a bell. Live local music with your host Al Weissman. It's In a Nutshell.
Okay, I am Kofi Baker. I am a nut in a nutshell, and this is In a Nutshell.
Good day, and how in the heck are you? This is Al Weissman bringing you the Quran edition of In a Nutshell. We hope you find today's In a Nutshell entertaining, informative, educational, and fun. If you've been following In a Nutshell for the past 12 to 18 months, you may have noticed a recurring pattern. We have had as guests, besides all of the other wonderful guests that have appeared on In a Nutshell, we've been fortunate to have had some of the children of prominent musicians, most of whom have picked up the family trade and become prominent musicians themselves. We visited with A.J. Croce, son of the great Jim Croce. We visited with Michael Allman, son of the great Greg Allman, and there were several others. Today we have the great good fortune to visit with the son of the gentleman who may be the greatest living drummer, that being Ginger Baker. Over the past several days I've watched videos featuring the father, Ginger Baker, and his son, Kofi Baker, some with the father and son playing together, some with each playing separately, sometimes individually, sometimes with a group. We're going to spend some time today with the great Kofi Baker, presently of an area of Indiana that's pretty close to Chicago. This promises to be a very special show. Also in the studio with us today is Marge. How you doing, Marge? Is everything okay?
I'm good, Al. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. And it's only close to us if you didn't have to drive the distance, right, Kofi?
Kofi might have a different opinion as to whether he's very close to this neck of the woods.
Yes.
Before we get to our guests today, there's a few things I'd like to mention. Don't forget, as having said, Kofi has a prodigious technique.
He must have been on a good day when he said that.
He's got a most amazing technique.
That was definitely not him.
Am I misquoting him? That strikes me as a pretty ringing endorsement that a father does not really owe to his son, but the type of statement made from the heart, maybe the guts, but not spuriously or absent good consideration. A statement like that, made by a father, this father in particular, about his son, I would say is of some import. At this time, I would ask our guests to step up to the mic, state your name, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Ooh, step up to the mic and state my name, hey? Kofi Baker, 46, male, green eyes.
I've got green eyes too.
Oh, you got green eyes? Yeah. Brown hair, red in parts. Yeah, there you go. 6 foot tall.
All right.
It sounds like the dating game suddenly.
For the accent,
huh?
I'd say somewhere in the British vicinity, the London vicinity.
London. Yes, I was born and raised in London.
Okay.
Not my fault. I was.
Those things happen.
Yeah. It wasn't my fault being the son of Ginger Baker either. I no blame for that.
Okay. You can't choose your parents.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, we welcome you
Well, thank
to
you.
our show, and I thank you for saying those few words. Now, what I would ask if you would be kind enough to do is, could you give us, our listening audience, a sample of your musical skills?
Yes, I have my drum kit here, brought in by my trusty friends in the corner.
Oh, could we name your trusty friends?
Yes, Dave and Tammy Florence. Or
Well,
she would say.
welcome to In a Nutshell, Dave and Tammy.
Yeah, so we piled my drum kit into the studio, and I'm going to do a number of different pieces for you.
Okay.
The first piece I'm going to do was actually one that my dad put together, and I modified a little bit, but it was one me and my dad used to play together.
Okay.
And I play both the parts, but it's a thing we used to do separate parts, and I put them all together and play the whole thing.
Okay, cool.
And it's an African piece.
I know your dad was heavily into African.
My name being Kofi, Ghanaian, would give you that clue, yeah. Again, not my fault. But yes, I was named after an African drummer, Kofi.
I was wondering about that.
Which is pretty amazing considering, you know, I'm a drummer, my dad's a drummer. You would have thought we'd have a great relationship, but there you go. We'll get into that later.
That happens to anybody, man.
Yeah.
That happens to many, many people.
But okay, so you want me to play this a little piece for you, and then we can.
Please.
Okay. I will play you an African piece.
Okay, cool.
Get the mics right. Okay, and this one goes like this. African thing that my dad taught me a long time ago, and I modified it. I should probably talk to this microphone, shouldn't I? Yeah, I modified that, and a bit rusty there, but you know,
Sounded
few little hiccups.
maliciously good.
But yeah, that's an African thing that my dad taught me at a very young age, about 13, 14.
Wow.
Okay.
And I just modified it a little bit.
Is there a name for that piece?
No, I call it Let's Trip because it's triplet based. So triplet backwards is Let Trip. So
Cool.
because it's kind of a trippy piece. But it, you know, I called it that as a kid, but now I just call it an African piece. But yeah, I mean it's based on triplets, a lot of triplets, quarter note triplets, eighth note triplets. If any drummers know about triplets, or any people know about triplets, your heart beats in triplets. When your heart beats, it beats in threes.
Lub dub dub.
Da 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 da. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so triplets are kind of cool. A lot of stuff is written in triplets. It's very swingy, and jazz is very triplety, very swing.
That was magnificent.
So
I got to tell you, it was beautiful.
Well, thank you. Well, that's just one piece. I've got many more.
Well, we'll give you a chance to demonstrate some of those as the afternoon goes by. And your dad wrote that with somebody else, or?
No, that was a piece that my dad played in his drum solos, and when I went to see him in Italy, we put that together as a piece where we played opposite parts. But that was basically the theme of the thing that my dad put together. So he kind of taught it to me, and I kind of modified it a lot, put a lot of different stuff. He didn't play it a lot. I play a lot of the parts that he would play and the parts I would play at the same time.
Okay.
So I learned how to play his parts and my parts together. So I'd be playing the cowbell part and playing another tom part, which would be the hand, which would be him, and a bass drum part that would be, you know, so I'm using both the parts together, really.
Very cool, very interesting.
So, yeah. It was part of my thing to be able to do independently. It was like, you know, I'll show my dad, you know, I'll show him what I can do. I can play his part and my part.
Awesome.
Of course, his reaction to that was like, "What are you doing? You can't do that." Well, I can.
I did.
And
I
he
did.
did. Awesome.
But you know, one of my stories about my dad is in Colorado. Actually, I went to see him, and I was playing. I was doing 16th-note triplet bass drum fills at about 90 beats per minute, and playing 16th notes with the kick drums. And he came in like, "What are you doing? You can't do that. It's too much." And a few years later, I was at Dave's house, and he was playing me Ginger Baker drum solos, and he ripped me off.
Oh,
He was
He
playing
stole
the
your-
16-note
that
double bass
technique.
drum
Awesome.
parts.
I know about that for a second. But it was in Colorado that he made those nice statements about you, so he must
Well,
have liked what you were doing.
yeah, he was probably on drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's never said anything nice to my face, really, so, you know.
Okay.
In fact, quite the opposite a lot of times, but there you go.
I just want to make it clear, the movie to which I referred earlier is called Beware of Mr. Baker, which is available on YouTube if anybody wanted to watch it. It tells
Yeah,
a little,
it's
quite a
actually on
bit about
Netflix
you.
as well.
It's also on Netflix.
Yeah, and it's
Showtime.
very, very cool, and it's very to the point, that movie.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty well made.
It was very well made, yeah. It's more like a kind of a movie than a documentary.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I like that about it, yeah. Unfortunately, I actually was talking to my dad a little bit before he saw that movie. And after he saw it, now I'm not. So,
Oh, really?
I think when the truth strikes home a little bit too
Yeah.
much, maybe
It makes
hard
you
to handle.
think twice.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. If you remember, how old were you when you held your first drumstick?
I have no idea.
Okay. Do you have any idea how old it was when you beat on your first drum?
Well, I had a plastic kit that had paper heads, and that didn't last very long.
I'm sure.
So after I trashed that, my dad gave me his spare bass drum and his spare snare drum, because he went single kick drum for a while.
Okay.
So I took the other bass drum that he had, and the spare snare drum, and a couple of African toms that were lying about the house,
All right.
and a couple of broken cymbals, and a Chinese cymbal that I found that was really nice. And I made that into a kit and played it until my dad found out that I had this nice Chinese cymbal and took that back and gave me 2 broken cymbals in return.
How nice.
How nice, yeah. But yeah, so I played that kit for a long time, and I was probably young. I mean, 6 or 7, you know.
Okay.
I played it up until I was about 13, 14, when my dad got another drum kit, or moved out of the country, or did something, and I got hold of his drum kit somehow, and then I had a full kit. So that was great, and I ended up actually selling that kit to the Rock Hall of Fame or Hard Rock Cafe or something. So there's bits of it about. I see it sometimes. That used to be my Tom, because they parted it around.
Oh my goodness.
And then I bought myself a real kit that I liked.
Okay.
Because the kit that he had was like a Perspex orange twirl and red twirl drum, like a twirling of Perspex. So it was colourful. It's very nice looking, but it didn't sound very great.
I see.
So I went and sold that kit. We bought 2 sofas, a fridge,
Holy man.
and another drum kit out of the money.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Quite an asset. Now I read that your first appearance with your father was when you were 6 years old.
As far as I know, this has never been proven yet. I haven't seen the video.
Okay.
I've just been told that it's out there. I've never seen it. But I mean, what I remember is I was 6 years old, and my dad was playing a show called the Old Grey Whistle Test, which is in London.
What kind of show is that? Like
It was like an early Top of the Pops, or an early, you know, like a show, you know, where they have artists on and they film it. It was like one of those early, like a, you know, almost like an MTV but live kind of thing.
Okay.
It was called the Old Grey Whistle Test, and my dad was performing with some band. I mean, I was 6, so it must have been like 1975.
All right.
So whatever band he was with, I can't remember. Anyway, the roadie said, yeah, why don't you go sound check his drums for him? So I was like, you know, I'm 6. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I get up there. You don't really think about things when you're 6 too much. I got up and just started bashing away on the kit, and apparently they started rolling tape, and I remember people started pouring in thinking it was my dad, and me going, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And all I remember is just running. The next thing I remember is just running off the stage. I think I got freaked out by all cameras and everything coming at me because I didn't really know what was happening. So apparently that's on video somewhere. Someone's told me they've seen it. I've never seen it.
Well, it wasn't included in the movie.
No.
So they put a lot of video cuts in.
Well, some of those they got from me. All the Colorado stuff is my camera I had at the time. Yeah, so some of it they got from me, which is good because tapes don't last forever. And they're probably not really much playable anymore.
All right. Did your dad actually give you drum lessons per se?
Well, drum lessons. I asked him once how to go over tuning a drum kit. I was presented with a drum key right up to my face with blank, 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 this is a drum key. Blank, 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 this drum key goes on the blank, blank, blank drum. Threw it at the drum and walked out. So that was pretty much my lesson for... I mean, I wish I had the tapes. I probably do, I don't know if they're playable, but I had tapes and I brought it home. My mum thought it was hilarious. I brought it home and it's like me and my dad working out this drum jet we were doing, and if I didn't get it right perfectly, that he would go nuts. And then one of his tapes is you hear him slam the sticks down and no, you know, blank, 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 you know, this kind of stuff, and you know.
Okay, well, we have to take a break for a second.
Okay.
This is Al Weissman. We are back on the air. We're having a really very interesting and really fun time with Kofi Baker, drummer and a very interesting person. Could you play another tune for us, Kofi?
I sure will. I had to move over to the mic then. I'll go back and play a different piece.
Okay. Is there a name for this piece?
This piece is based on a 4/4 kind of groove, so yeah, I just call this one 4 on the floor.
Okay, cool.
This is Kofi Baker. Help! I'm in a nutshell. How did I get into this nutshell? Look at the size of this great bloody nutshell. What sort of nutshell has a shell this big? Bloody hell, this is crazy.
Exceptionally cool, man.
Thank you. Again, a little bit rough, not quite warmed up yet, but getting there.
You're getting there, as far as I can see. Do you play any instruments other than the drums?
Yes, I play the keyboards.
Do you really?
Yes.
Which would you say you play more?
Oh, the drums by far. The keyboards I only play to write.
Okay.
So I really play them very rarely. There's actually a tune on one of my CDs where I'm playing all the instruments except for the guitar. All the bass parts on the keyboard and everything.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Cool.
So.
Very cool. So so you say you only play the keyboard to write?
Yes.
Do you do a lot of writing?
I do, yeah. I mean, I write quite a lot, but I haven't written for a while. But yeah, I mean, I sit down on the keyboard, and because it's a percussive instrument, you know, you can play it like drums, but only with notes.
Okay.
So I kind of used, you know, I play by ear a lot. I know somewhat the chord progression and stuff, but I play by ear, and I just write melodies and notes that I like, and I use rhythmical ideas on the keyboard, and that's how I come up with a lot of my music. And then I write lyrics and everything afterwards, but not really great at lyric writing.
Okay.
My lyrics tend to make sense, which you know, shouldn't be really when you're writing a song. They should be kind of more, you know, letting the person build their own meaning to it.
Sure.
Interesting.
Do you write alone usually, or do you collaborate with others at times?
I write alone when I'm writing my own stuff, but I prefer to write with others. Yeah, I prefer to write from a drum point of view. Like, hey, play this and play this over this and use this and do that. So, because I use a lot of polyrhythms. Music is very about the phrasing. It makes, you know, if you know all the notes in the world, it doesn't matter if you can't phrase them in a good timing. So how you present them in phrasing is very important. I do a lot of lessons where I teach bass players and keyboard players and other people how to play across times and to be able to play different times while you're playing in a time. So for instance, if there's, you know, if you're playing in 4/4, if you divide your 4 beats into triplets, so instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be a bit slower, but you can fit in the same time. And it'll give you an African 3/4 rhythm. It's a polyrhythmical idea, but it's used in music all the time. If you know the Beatles, and you know some of the Beatles tunes, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is a 2/3 polyrhythm. Because the first part of it is in 6, da 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 da, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The rest is in 1, 2, 3, 4. The Lucy, you know, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds part. It's a 2/3. It's da 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 da. Could be played at the same time. So classical music uses this kind of stuff a lot in its music.
I see.
And you know, the producer of the Beatles was George Martin. I had to remember that one. He was classical guy, so he knew all that stuff. I mean, I don't think Ringo or John Lennon really knew much about that stuff, but they learned.
Sure, sure.
So you should hear what my dad has to say about them.
I did. Well, actually, he said nice things about Ringo.
He did, yeah. Well, because I think he likes Ringo, because Ringo, you know, kind of worships him, so he likes that. He likes people that worship him. But yeah, he likes Ringo, but I don't think he's too fond of Paul McCartney.
Oops.
Yeah, no, well, actually, there was a part of that movie that was dedicated to how Paul McCartney came in, kind of bullied his people, bullied their way, and took over his studio for a while, and did some recording session there.
But there's probably two sides to that story.
Yeah.
And you probably...
Well, he admitted that he allowed them to come in. He allowed all that to happen, and then he was complaining about it later. It seems
right, yeah.
like poor sportsmanship.
But yeah, exactly. But you know, I'm sure it wasn't all bad on Paul McCartney's side. But anyway, I'm not going to go.
Sure.
I mean, after my dad hears this interview, he won't talk to me even more than he's not talking to me now.
Oh.
Did you ever take any lessons either in singing or any instrument other than the drums?
Yes, I took some lessons, some keyboard lessons, and amazing enough, a lute player.
Really?
Cool.
Took me under his wing in London, yeah.
How old were you during those times?
I was like 14, 15.
When you learned the lute?
Well, I didn't learn how to play it, I just learned the rhythms and actually learned them to play them percussively, but from a drums point of view. But I wasn't really learning I was just learning the Eastern, Middle Eastern, stuff. A lot of that rhythms, like the 7/8 and all that kind of stuff. So it really came in handy because I got a couple of gigs later on in Hollywood playing with a Romanian band.
Really?
And playing this which you can't really dance to, but they can, amazingly. They can dance to it. We can't. Us Westerners go, what? That's going on, 7/8? But,
Foreign to our ears. How interesting. Really interesting. No singing lessons ever?
No, I sing like my dad. So when I do Press Rat and Warhog, it sounds pretty much like my dad.
Do you often sing, or is that?
I try. I sit there with my keyboard. I was in the choir when I was a kid. I had a great voice. I was singing in the choir, and I could sing anything. And then when my voice broke, I lost all control over it, and I never really got it back. It's something I work on, but I don't. I sit there with my keyboard and I play and I tape myself and I listen. The problem is I have a really good ear, so I can hear if something's slightly out or slightly wrong, and it drives me mad. So if I'm singing bad, I can't stand the sound of myself. So it doesn't help.
I see. Now, when you're writing music, do you need certain conditions or certain food or certain place or anything along those lines?
Somewhat, yes. I like to be home. I like to be in a comfortable place. Yeah, it helps. But not really. It just depends on the mood I'm in. Normally I'm a night person.
Okay.
I'm up at night. About 9, 10 o'clock is when I wake up.
Okay.
And then I really start,
Well, that's
having
good.
good
Your
ideas.
job probably put you into the kind of a rhythm because probably you mostly perform at night, so that's why you need to be awake.
Yeah, I mean, that's mainly it. But I mean, I seem to come alive like really late, like 1 or 2 in the morning. Like I'm sitting in my studio at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then I'm on a roll, and I'm like, I gotta get to bed, because I miss the sunlight. I wake up at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and around here it's gone. I get like 1 hour of light, and then it's dark again. So I got to figure out how to keep myself on a better schedule. But
Okay. But it's like that everywhere, isn't it? I mean, well, now we're on daylight savings time, and so that makes it more
which
difficult.
Doesn't make much sense for musicians. It's great for farmers, but
Right.
it doesn't.
Although I've noticed that when I'm on Facebook, if I wake up in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, all the musicians are online. They're all
Yeah, right. See, it should be daylight savings the other way round for us.
That's right.
It should be pushed so the daylight's later.
That's right.
Like it's light at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I think it'd be much better. But it might be something about the darkness too, about playing, because having the lights low and having I've got a fireplace in my new house and it's great. I turn all the lights off, put the fireplace on in the winter, and just
that sounds nice.
play drums. Yeah,
That sounds cool.
it gets a bit hot in there sometimes, but I like the warmth anyway.
When you were in elementary school, did you play in any of the school activities, the musical activities?
Elementary school. Well, our schools are named different. I don't know which one elementary would be.
Like first through 8th.
Okay.
Primary.
Not really. I mean, I played drums, but there really wasn't much. I mean, I was in the choir. Like I said, I was doing the choir, but one point they did get me up on stage playing drums in the choir in the school gig. I was 10. I had to borrow some drums off somebody else because I only had the
you
bass
actually
drum.
knew how to play drums by that time.
Yeah.
Between the times that you were 6 and the time now that you're 10, you learned drums during that time.
Well, I could always play. My dad had taught me rudiments when I was very young, like a paradiddle, double stroke rolls, he called mummy daddies, things like that. When I was about 4 or 5, or maybe even younger, I remember being taught rudiments.
I see.
So I remember sitting there playing paradiddle, 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 mummy daddy, paradiddle, mummy daddy, paradiddle. And very importantly, he taught me to keep my feet keeping time while I was playing with my hands, which is the first thing you should learn if you're going to play drums, because unfortunately drummers learn with their hands and put their feet in later. And that can cause problems because it messes up your hand coordination. And the left foot, very important. I have a book out called The Forgotten Foot, which is actually on Hal Leonard, which is in Amazon, you can find it.
No kidding.
And it's called The Forgotten Foot, and it's about the fact that when I was taught drums, my left foot was my timekeeper, because I'm right-handed and right-footed, and my right foot was taught to play around the time. So my left foot was always taught to keep time while I'm playing. So if you listen to a lot of my solos, I can play a part where my left foot can keep time and keep a rhythm going, and I can play around it with the other parts. So I can always keep a groove going that I can play off, which my dad did in his drum solos. Hence his drum solos were more understandable to the normal person.
I see.
You know, you can actually tap your foot. I'm like a drummer who's just playing, you know, technique and playing stuff. I try to play my drum solos are more meant to be more a groove and a melodic piece, rather than, hey, look, I can play 7/9 with my left foot while picking my nose with my right foot. You know? So a lot of technical drummers or technical drummers are like that. You know, they want to show, hey, I can do this, and look, I can do that, and that's what drum solos are about. For me, I try to stay away from my technique if I can. I try to not use it and actually play pieces that are you know, like a melodic and have a rhythm to them.
And I understand you also have a school where you teach.
I used to have a school in California.
I see.
Now I teach at my friend's house, Tammy and Dave's, 1 day a week, and I teach at my house 1 day a week. But like 1-2 students a day. I mean, I've got like 3 students a week, if that. Very little teaching now. I used to teach 40, 50 students a week.
Are you open for that possibility?
Yeah, but I don't really have a school like I used to have. So it's, you know, basically teaching in people's houses now.
So you used to have like a commercial establishment where you actually had...
I used to have, yeah. I used to actually have a drum school in California, yeah.
Did you sell drums there too?
I didn't sell drums, just drum lessons.
I see.
But I had lots of students, and they came in, and it was a great time. But again, I'm more of a player than I am a teacher. But I like teaching. But I like teaching students that that like to be there. You know, sometimes with a school you get kids that are just, their parents are telling them to be there.
Sure, sure.
And that was kind of, you know, not very... I want to teach someone who really who loves playing. That's what I really like doing, and then you can really get into it. When someone's kind of just, you know, going through the motions and not really there, that's kind of disheartening a little bit. Because music is people that get into music for fame or money is really the wrong reason. You know, you're going to have to be really lucky, otherwise you're going to be really unhappy.
Sure, sure.
Get into music for the fact that you love playing, and then see what happens. You know, if it pays your way, you know, it didn't pay my way at the beginning. I used to do glass collecting and in bars and all kinds of stuff.
What's glass collecting?
You know, when there was a bar, there's a bar in London called the Electric Ballroom, and it was a big venue where people used to go, and you'd have bands and they'd have DJs, different bars, and they had all these plastic cups. And once the people drink, they put the cup down, and I was one of the kids that go around collecting all the cups and taking them to the washer, where they get washed. And sometimes I was a washer, sometimes I was a collector.
That's a busboy.
But I kind of liked that job, and it was kind of fun when there was a big, you know, riot going on in the building, which happened once. And everybody's throwing glasses, and I'm going around grabbing them off people. No, that's taking that. I'm taking that. You can't throw that one. Oh, you broke that glass, you idiot! I've got to take that back broken now. You know, like, and everybody's having a fight, and I'm like, trying to get all the glasses from getting broken, you know. That was kind of fun.
Sounds like it.
But yeah, I lived on the streets from 15 to like 16 and a half somewhere.
Let me ask you a few more preliminary questions, because I was going to ask you about that.
Okay.
I read about that, or I heard about that. You have two sisters.
I have 2 sisters.
Are they musical?
One is, but she doesn't really pursue it because it didn't make her enough money.
One is Jeanette.
One is Nettie, Jeanette, yeah, I call her Nettie. She's my older one, she's 8.5 years older than me.
Okay.
And then there's Lida,
yeah.
who's 13 months older than me.
Okay.
And then there's me. And Lida's the one that was a bass player. Me and her used to play together a lot in London. She was a great bass player, but she just found that it was, she didn't want to live the poor life, you know, of a musician. She wanted to actually be able to buy nice things and have nice clothes and you know,
playing bass wasn't doing that for her.
Yeah, it wasn't. So she kind of dropped the bass and became a technical writer. You know.
Yeah, there's not a lot. There's some obviously profoundly talented bass players out there, but you don't really hear a lot about. You know, there's not that many bass players out there that are, you know, reach that level of excellence.
Well, there's, you know, I mean, Jack Bruce was one of the greats.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, he definitely took the bass playing to a different place. Jaco Pastorius, there's a few people in the jazz world like that really did a lot with the bass.
I'm not saying that it's not out there. I'm just saying that it's difficult to attain that level. I mean,
I
let's
suppose,
face it,
yeah.
Jack Bruce was one of very, very few people that is, you know, ever attained that kind of a level.
Well, that's why when I play a lot of the Cream stuff, which I do when I'm playing, I have to have a really good bass player. I mean, I had Rick Friabracci playing bass with me, who with Chick Corea's Electric Band, Tom Jones, Shakira, Yanni. He's done everybody. He's played with everybody. He was like one of the top LA guys, and he was great to have in the band because he could really play his instrument. And to play his Jack part, you know, to play his part, you don't have to play his parts, but you have to be able to be very forward as a bass player to play the kind of stuff and be able to take solos and move the music around.
I thought it was interesting that Jack Bruce was in Cream. He was in early bands with your dad, but you also toured with him at some point in time.
I did like a few gigs with him. I don't think it was much more than that. I can remember the Budapest gig.
Okay.
We played in Budapest because I remember all the money I got paid and all my sticks and everything got stolen after the gig. Oh. And I had to sit in a hotel room for a day with no sticks and nothing. Listening to Jack Bruce's son in the next room with a 16-year-old girl.
Oops.
How much fun that must have been.
Yeah, that was great fun. That was. And Malcolm will probably remember that too. But anyway, enough of that.
So you had one sister that played the bass, the other sister wasn't musical?
Well, I don't know if she was musical. She never pursued anything musical.
How about your mom?
My mum was more artist. My mum's background is very artist. Her grandfather is pottery and artworks in a museum in Finland.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, my mum's side was definitely artistical side with drawing and painting. And my dad's got a little bit of that too. I have a little bit of that. I just don't really pursue it that much.
Okay.
Yeah, very, you know, art world my mum was from. And she did some great painting. She did the CD cover to my Cream CD. And she was doing bass drum heads for me before she died, and she never finished them, which is a real shame.
Oh, your mom passed away?
Yeah, unfortunately.
How long ago was that, man?
2 years, 3 years ago.
Oh, sorry.
2 years ago, I think. Yeah, so, yeah, and I was really close to my mum, so it's kind of sad, but, you know, anyway.
Yeah. That's a bummer. How about, I don't mean to keep going back to this, but in high school, did you perform in any of the high school plays or anything like that, or the musicals?
No, we didn't really have that kind of stuff in my schools. I was in state school, you know, like really poor schools, you know. So, yeah, maybe if I was in a private school, I think in England, it's a little bit different in England than it is out here. I don't think there's so much really on the musical and the art world in England. When I was growing up, it wasn't.
Okay.
But I grew up again, like I was homeless, you know, the end years and the end years of my schooling were very, not in school a lot and dealing with weird stuff.
So this you're talking now about the point in time when your dad left and the house was repossessed and you guys were basically out on the street.
My dad left when I was very young, probably 5 or 6 or 7 or somewhere around there. And all I remember after that is a lot of turmoil and my go-kart entering the house through the front window and things like that going on, and ashtrays flying around the house and police and being, you know, kidnapped, and then all kinds of weird stuff, you know, by my dad kidnapping him from school, and then we couldn't get taken by my dad, and my mum took us back, and then social workers and weird stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And social workers don't really understand a lot of things. Like, you ask a kid, you know, with your kids with your mum, and you ask the kid, do you love your dad? The kid's going to say, yeah, I love my dad. And then the social worker's going to go back to the mother and say, but he loves his dad. And the last thing the mother wants to hear is the kid loves his dad.
Sure.
So beats the head out of the kid for like a couple of hours, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, dealt with a lot of that. So it was, you know, weird upbringing from those years. I mean, I finally escaped when I was 15 when I was homeless. So it was actually a good thing when I was homeless, because I actually escaped all the weirdness and actually got to, you know, be among people.
Was that when the house was repossessed?
Yes.
And I read that you slept with your drums and instruments tied to your body.
A couple of times, yes, because sometimes if I was in a squat, or if I had to stay outside sometimes, in the summer I could stay outside. I had a big flight case, and I just lie on the flight case, and my drums were all in drums, so, you know, people were still, I lost everything. I lost all my Atari I had and all the kids' stuff that you had. The only thing I had was my drums, so I knew to keep those. So I tie them to myself, yeah. So that way if someone tried to grab a drum or something, you know, most people wouldn't go near me with a kid sleeping in a park with a bunch of drums tied to them. But, you know, and I looked, you know, didn't look exactly like a yuppie. I, you know, had leather jacket with studs and ripped jeans and, you know, shaved head, you know, looked kind of like a nutcase.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, you know,
In a nutshell.
perfect for you.
Fit in perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, even I was playing jazz gigs and I'd turn up to a jazz gig and they would be like, well, where's the drummer? I go on the drummer and go, you've got a mohawk, you know, a Mohican, and you've got, and this is a jazz venue.
Whoa.
I go, yeah, but I'm playing with the jazz band, you know, so.
Oh,
Wow.
That must have been a handicap.
Well, I mean, it just, yeah, it's just you have to look, you can't really look all, well, you can't really afford to look all proper anyway, you can't afford the clothes, so.
Sure. But when you started playing your drums, I'm sure that all of the outward appearances were quickly forgotten.
Yes, yeah.
When people listened to your talent.
But it was funny because in bars I was underage. I was 14, 15 playing in bars, and it would be like, well, he's not allowed in. Oh, he's a midget. He's actually 20 years old. He's just a midget, you know, he's very small. And that's how they used to get me in the bars to play. So, yeah.
And you were that good that they wanted you to play with them.
Well, I mean, that's what I was doing to survive. I mean, in a squat, when you're squatting in a squat, there's a whole community that squats. It's not just one person squats in a house. Americans may not know what a squat is, but a squat is a house that no one's in, that's vacant. You break into it, but then you fix what you broke, so you say you didn't break into it.
Okay.
And you've got like 3 months squatters' rights, which means it takes them 3 months to get the stuff to get you out, and sometimes it takes 6 months.
Oh.
So homeless kids in England were doing that a lot. We were doing that, going around
gracious.
finding squats and stuff. I think we have to take a break.
We have to take a break.
I'm going to have to do that nutshell thing with a really cockney
All
accent. I'm
right.
going to have to.
All right.
Well, towards the end here, I'll do it.
Very
That'd be
cool.
fun to do.
I wanted to mention that you're giving drum lessons, correct? You're
I am
available if
giving
people
drum
are
lessons.
interested in taking lessons. You're available to give lessons, correct?
Yes,
And that would occur in Lombard, Illinois,
yes, or Hobart, either one.
or Hobart, Indiana.
Yes,
And the phone number to call would be 630-935-6617.
correct.
Okay, so if anybody out there is interested in drum lessons, here's the man to see, because you're not going to find a better instructor than this.
Yeah, it's very important you take lessons for the first few lessons to get the idea right, because if you go down the wrong path, like I've said with my book, The Forgotten Foot, if you learn to drive an automatic car and you've been driving it for 10 years and then someone throws you in a stick shift, you're not going to be able to drive it.
Sure.
But if you learn to drive a stick shift, you can drive anything. So it's the same with drumming. You want to kind of learn so that you can go into other styles of drumming and have the full thing down, the full control of the instrument.
Plus, I think that really with musical instruments, maybe more than any other field of endeavor, if you get off on the wrong foot, it's really hard to bring it back to the right.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. The beginning few lessons, you don't want to take lessons all the way through your life. You want to just take lessons to learn enough to be able to take the rest of the journey yourself.
Right.
It's like give a man a fish or teach a man to fish. Some places and some people do it like they just give you a little bit at a time. I like to actually teach theory of how to learn, how to understand drumming, so that you can do anything with it that you want to do. Because you can do it, it's vast what you can do. You can do anything with drumming. So I can only take it as far as I can take it. Someone else can take it in a different direction as far as they can take it. So it's great to teach a student how to actually understand, how to teach themselves and see what they come up with.
How fascinating.
So,
Well, there you have it. Now, of course, your dad we know about, but and your sister, the bass player. Are there any other musical people in your family? Cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents? You said the one grandpa was an artist.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't really know much about my dad's side of the family. As like I said, it wasn't a very family. I know more about my mum's side, but yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I don't think there was that many players around that were playing. I don't remember any.
Now, one thing that was brought out in the movie Beware Mr. Baker is that he moved around quite a bit to different areas of the world.
Yes.
Did you go with him on any of these movies?
I tried to follow him about a little bit. I came to Colorado when he was there,
Okay.
which is the only really time I spent with my dad, apart from like a few months in Italy when I was younger. I've only really been around my dad twice. Once in Italy for like 3 months, and then once in Colorado for like a year.
According to the movie, when he married a young woman before he moved to Italy, and when he got to Italy, one of his daughters, one of your sisters, visited him with some of her friends. And
It was actually the guy that came with me.
oh,
We all met there. My sister went with one of the brothers, David Wicks.
wait, one sec. He was like about 47 at the time, and the girl was like 17 at the time.
Yeah, she was younger than my sister.
Okay.
She was young. She wasn't 17. She was like, yeah, I mean, probably, yeah, you're right, probably about 17. But she wasn't that young when I was around. It was a bit later on.
Okay.
And yeah, my sister went out to my dad's in Italy with David Wicks, one of the brothers. My other sister went out with one of the friends, his friends, and I went out with John Wicks, which is one of the brothers of David Wicks.
Okay.
And John was this really good-looking guy, you know, like 24, 25, something, you know, young, good-looking guy. Of course, you know, Sarah and him, like, I was 15 years old or 14 years old, and I kind of like thought it was a bit strange that they kissed, you know, when it went to bed, and I was like, but my dad kind of thought I knew about it and gave me a, you know, beat me up over it. I didn't know anything was going on. So, you know, but yeah, he ran off with her, and
That must have been a shock to the whole family.
well, it wasn't a shock to the whole family, it was a shock to him. I mean, family, I don't know.
No, when he ran away with the 17-year-old girl.
Oh, you mean when my dad ran away?
Yes.
Well, I don't think anybody really. I don't know. I don't really. There's not much family.
There wasn't much closeness there.
Yeah, there's not really much closeness in our family. It's really everybody kind of does their own thing. Everybody's kind of on their own.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Are there any drummers that you think are particularly among the top?
Well, there's a lot of drummers that I love. Growing up, I really loved Tony Williams from Tony Williams' Lifetime, and Terry Bozzio, which was in Frank Zappa, which did Missing Persons, and Vinnie Colaiuta, how you pronounce his last name, who was with Zappa and other people. So I was, you know, influenced by some of these great drummers like that, the real fusion chop drummers. So I got into jazz, you know, at a very young age, and my dad was a jazz drummer, so he kind of pushed the jazz onto me. So all the drummers I liked were in the jazz kind of fusion kind of world.
Well,
so,
that's a pretty sophisticated level of drumming.
Right, yeah. I mean, I wanted to learn how to play all of that stuff. Which my dad actually has a lot of technique. He actually knows a lot of that stuff. So I kind of, when I could, I'd pry out what I could from my dad, you know. When I went to Italy, it was, you know, kind of, it was like grasshopper. To have a lesson, you have to go clean the gutter and mow the lawn and fix the truck and do this. And after you've done those 2 weeks of tours up and down the stairs carrying water, then I will give you a lesson.
Oh,
It was kind of like that, you know, irrigate the olive farm, you know, go do this, cut these woods like this. I got drumsticks, and he took all my drumsticks and put them in the fire and burnt them.
Oh my goodness.
And I did that glass collecting job, right? Collecting glasses for like 3 months to be able to buy my drumsticks that my dad picked up and threw in the fire. And then gave me a pair of these little tiny ones. And like, here, these are the sticks you play. Because I had these huge 2S's, which are like telegraph poles. I mean, really. I was breaking cymbals. I was bending rims on my drums with these sticks.
Oh my
You
goodness.
know, so I still use big sticks, Veta Power 5Bs, but not as big as they used to be. My dad uses tiny sticks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think, there's no way for you to know that. Did you visit your dad when he was in Africa?
No, I've never been to Africa.
He lived there twice, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he even lived in South Africa.
Yeah.
But Ghana was where my name's from, and I always wanted to go to Ghana. I met someone from Ghana in a gym a couple of years ago, and he was like, "Kofi, yeah, you should go to Ghana. You can't be named Kofi without going to Ghana." It's like,
Cool.
and I was like, "Well, at some stage I will go to Africa, I'm sure." But my dad, yeah, never took me. You know, Dad never took me anywhere. You know, I followed him to America, Colorado.
I see.
You know, I've done my best to follow him around. I gave up after Colorado, though. That was it.
I understand there were some pretty rough words.
Yeah, I gave up. You know, you can only try so hard.
Of course.
You know,
Yeah.
Of course.
and then you have to go, okay, all right, this is what it is. You know.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, whatever the psychological motivations that make him say things like that are, it's hard to accept.
Well,
it.
yeah,
Even
like I
if you
said,
understand it, it's hard to
It's
accept
probably
it.
not that uncommon that people have this relationship with their dads. I'm sure a lot of kids, you know, haven't had the greatest
Sure.
relationships. Just mine is more in the spotlight, so
Right.
you know, I get asked questions about it a lot. You know, you don't normally go up to the normal person and go, "Well, how did your dad treat you?" You know, but you know, there you go.
The one more thing about your dad, if you don't mind.
Okay.
He said that a musician's time, he calls it, is a gift from God. You either have it or you don't have it.
Yeah. Well, there's two things you really need to have. You need to have time, and you need to have an ear.
Okay.
So it's but time is very important. Being able to feel time is very important, to be able to groove and make songs really cool.
But do you feel that if an individual is sufficiently motivated that they can learn to acquire that?
I think we
skill
all
or
can, because I think if you look at someone walking down the street, they normally walk in time. I mean, I've had kids that have come into lessons that you would think, why, you know, no, and had them leave, you know, being able to keep time. So I think it's something that you just have to tune into. Yeah, I think we all have it. I think you just have to be able to tune into it. I think some people can't. But I think we all can if we learn. Yeah, I think it's something you can learn.
And the other one was an ear. That you might not be able to learn. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about the ear thing, because that amazes me. Some people that don't have an ear for music, which, well, what's wrong with that track? Well, it's all out of time, and it's off. Yeah, but what do you mean? And I've even had, you know, so I mean, I'll stop there, but yeah, I think ear is something that maybe you either have it or you don't.
All right. Do you think you could play another tune for us?
I could.
Please.
Okay, I'll pick, maybe I'll do a Latin thing for you.
Beautiful, sure.
A Latino piece. And again, I play all the parts here, so hope we're not going to run out of time. I'll try and keep it short.
What's the name of this one?
Latin piece.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
Weissman in a nutshell. That was Kofi Baker on the drums. Very, very nice.
Yeah, it's a little Latin thing. Went a bit wild at the end there, but started off Latin anyway.
Pretty cool. Very, very cool. I noticed, I found a biography rather of you online, and it talked about how in the early 80s you and your dad played these drum duets throughout Europe. You said that you really only did a few gigs with him?
Well, I did the one drum duet with him in Italy.
Okay.
That was really it.
That was it?
Yeah. I don't remember doing anything else.
Later on you toured with John Etheridge of Soft Machine?
Yeah, that was when that was the jazz gigs I was saying about in London. I was with John Etheridge and Dick Exel Smith.
Okay.
And we were playing Jazz Cafe and stuff like that in London and stuff. So that's when I played with him, very young. Randy California too, from Spirit and stuff, yeah. Those guys I was playing with around about then when I was very young.
Steve Waller?
Steve Waller, again, Steve Waller was a bit later, I was about 17 maybe.
Okay. It was a bit later.
Yeah, so yeah, when I was about 17. Then I joined Steve Marriott, which is great. But then I had to start playing rock, because I was playing jazz up until then, and kind of fusion, and then I had to play blues rock.
Okay.
So Steve used to say, "Keep it simple, Baker." Every time we were on stage, he would keep it simple, Baker. And I never really knew what he was talking about, but now I do. I wish I knew him now, because he died when I was very young. He was 43. I was probably 19 or 20 or something. Yeah. He was like my dad. There was two people in my life that have been like my dad. You know, now three.
That's nice.
But he's only like 5 years older than me.
No, but still,
I assume that you're not including
it's important to have.
Ginger Baker among those three.
Yeah, no. I mean, no. I mean, people actually, cared about me.
Who was the third one?
What's that?
Who was the third one? You said
Well, I think Dave's kind of like
Dave
taking
and
over his
Waller.
wing.
And who else? Who was the third one?
Well, there was
Nice.
the people that took us. Well, Steve Marriott was
Okay.
the first person I think was like really my first dad. He really took care of me. He like bought me shoes and was like really like, really cared about me. Then a guy called Mac Folk who brought me to America in the first place. When I first came to America in 1988, he brought me here.
I see.
And he was the guy that took me into his house and everything the same way. So, those are people that actually, are more like dads than...
There's some nice people out
That's
there.
awesome.
Yeah, there's some nice people out there.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, it says you toured with Jack Bruce in Budapest.
I'm nice.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, it was fun, yes.
Did you do very many gigs there, or
One gig, I think.
one gig?
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, there may have been a couple more, but I don't think so. I thought it was just one. I know I did a party with him, with Simon Phillips and Jack. But I don't know if I did any more gigs. Yeah, the Budapest was a great gig. I mean, but again, Jack was pretty whacked out at that time.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. So.
Does that have to do with self-medicating, or?
He was medicating heavily. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Something. I don't know what it was, but there was something going on there.
And then you signed on with Scotty Brothers Records after that?
That's when I first came to America. That was Matt Folk
I see.
deal. He was the guy that did Scotty Brothers record. Yeah, and we did an album which was again ahead of its time. It was like Soundgarden, kind of before Soundgarden came out.
Okay.
So it was it's a cool album actually. One of my students picked it up. It's like, oh man, it's the best album I've ever heard. What happened to this? I'm like, well, I mean, again, it's called Lost City. It was on Scotty Brothers Records, and it was a good little album actually. And, that's some good stuff. And I co-wrote with it, so it was me putting a lot of my energy in.
Okay. And that was with Jonas Hellberg and Sean Lane?
Oh no, that was Jonas Hellberg.
Oh, that's Abstract
Logic. That was a different album. That was done in Sweden. Yeah, that was done in '95, I think.
Okay.
I think that was 95 or something, yeah. They flew me to Sweden for that one, which was really interesting. And Sean Lane was a great guitar player, great guy. And Jonas was, from the Malvishna Orchestra, so a good bass player. And we set up in this great big hall, an art gallery hall, great big hall, and did it live. The album was done live. So it's a cool album. That's called Abstract Logic. That's out there. You can buy that one, I think.
I'll
Still.
look around for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Jonas Hellborg, Sean Lane, Kofi Baker.
And then it says that you completed the Extreme Guitar Tour with
Yeah.
Uli Ron Roth.
Oh, that was recently, yeah. Uli John Roth, yeah. The loudest guitar player I have ever played with, without a doubt.
Really?
And I've played with some loud players, but Uli John Roth was definitely the loudest.
Was that a U.S. tour or?
That was a US tour, yeah. We did Canada. We popped into Canada for a little bit. But that was the most cushy tour, because you're on a tour bus and you just do the gig. After the gig, you can make food on the tour bus and everything, which I made smoothies and everything, and then you can go to sleep and you wake up at the venue the next day. You crawl out of the bunk and there's food around, and
Was it comfortable? I mean, the bunks on the tour bus.
Well, if you don't want to move around a lot, they're comfortable.
Yeah, that's kind of narrow.
They're kind of tight because we had 12 people on a 12-bunk bus.
Wow.
So we were at capacity. Of course, our tour manager, first day we get the bus, and we all go in. It's a great bus, and he goes. The tour manager walks out the bus, and we're going in there, but it smells like crap in here. Right. So let me just put this straight. The first rule on a tour bus is do not crap on the bus. Right? You do not poop on the bus. You can pee, but you don't poop on the bus. You tell the driver to pull over, and you go poop, right? The first thing our tour manager did before any of us got on the bus was get on the bus and poop. So he's walking out the bus and we're walking in the bus for the first time and going,
oh no.
Why does it smell of poop? And the driver's going, did someone poop it? We go, do we all, we're not going to poop on the bus. And Andrew's like, you're not allowed to poop on the bus? Oh, I just went in there and took a great big poop. It's like, So we had to spend a couple of days before the driver pulled over to a place to empty it out.
Oh
smelling
no.
Oh gosh.
But it was a nice bus.
There was a notorious episode a few years back of a rock tour bus unloading its poop storage tanks into the Chicago River without looking down below first. They were doing it on one of these bridges that has, it's like a metallic structure, so there's holes throughout the bridge.
Right.
And so they just dumped it on the bridge. They didn't look to see that there was a tour bus going, a tour boat going by beneath the bridge right
Oh,
there.
and they dumped it all on the boat?
All over the boat. All these people were splattered with poop from the bus.
When was this?
Chicago?
I could get you the information. I don't remember exactly right now, but it wasn't within the last several years.
Oh, wow, okay.
And what were they? They were all, they were some kind of...
Well, they must have been a very unrespectable people, because one, respectable people, what, musicians?
We'll have it in a nutshell next time.
Okay.
And now, how did you wind up in Hobart, Indiana, may I ask?
Well, it's Dave's fault, really.
Dave, what did you do to this man?
Yeah, it's like, well, my mum died, and at the same time, my school in California went down because a guy moved in next door to me and didn't like the loud noise in an industrial unit, and drove me out of my school. So I lost my drum school, I lost my mum, and then my girlfriend dumped me, and I lost my cat.
Excuse me for 1 second. We have the story here. The Dave Matthews bus driver.
Dave Matthews, wow.
Pleads guilty to dumping in the river.
Wow.
Was there a date on that,
I hope
Ernest?
Dave Matthews wasn't involved in that.
No, the bus driver.
100 pounds.
800 pounds of stool.
Well, Dave Matthews must be eating really well.
The
If
driver,
it was Dave Matthews' poop, they could have sold that.
That's
the
right.
driver was sentenced to 18 months of probation. We don't lose the page. 150 hours of community service and $10,000 for
Wow.
dumping poop on the tourist boat that went by down below. So.
Well, I hope that it was clarified that it was Dave Matthews' poop, so that there wasn't some bad, right?
So if they scraped a little bit off the boat, they
Sold
had
it
a
on
souvenir
eBay.
for life.
Right, exactly. They could smell Dave Matthews for a long time.
There you go. I'm sorry though, I didn't want to interrupt you, sir, but he had it up on the screen. I wanted to just
Thank you,
address that.
Roger.
Thank you, Roger. And but so your mom passed away. Your drumming school was
Yeah, I
about-
lost my drum school because a neighbour moved in that didn't like the loud noise, which was completely insane because it's an industrial unit zoned for noise. and you're not allowed to live there. And he was living there.
Oh my
And
goodness.
So he would prevail upon the authorities to get you out of there?
well, he was a nut job, and I had to leave because it was like to the point where he was shooting out my lights in my truck.
Oh,
my
with
that's
a
dangerous.
high-powered pellet gun and stuff. So I had to just, you know, cops couldn't do anything to save me at this point. The guy was just a nut. So I had to leave, yeah. So I left my school. Then my girlfriend had enough of me and threw me out. And then I lost my cat because I was on the streets looking for hotels. So I lost one of my cats thanks to a manager who was going to look after them. So at that point I was like, you know what? And I just done a gig in Germany. I just toured Germany. So I came back from Germany, and I think I went around with my friend Dave to some areas to see if this money my mum left me, I could do anything with it. Because, you know, $100,000 doesn't do anything in California.
Yeah. Sure.
Out here you can actually buy a house.
Right.
So I just took that money, and I thought the best thing for me to do is if I don't buy a house, I'm going to live off it, you know, and I'm going to spend it, and then, you know, in 10 years I'll have nothing.
Sure, absolutely.
So I thought, oh, okay, I'll take that money and I'll just buy a house. At least it's invested into a house. I can't touch it. You know, I can't squander it away, so hopefully it's a good move, and my rent will be cheaper.
Sure.
That's right.
And so I came here and figured Chicago's a good place to come when you've lost everything. You can play the blues really well, right?
There's
That's
plenty of blues in
right.
this
Oh.
Yeah, so I thought I'd come here and get a gig. I'm still looking for that gig. Hello, anybody out there
Wow,
who
cool.
needs a drummer?
All right.
If you look at the size of this bloody great nutshell, what sort of shell has a nut this size?
And this is Al Weissman. In a nutshell, we're back with Kofi Baker. Kofi,
Hello.
do you have another tune for us today?
Yeah, I can play all day and all night, different
All
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
can you lay one, something on us?
I'll give you something. I'll combine a few things as well.
All right.
Okay. And I'll call this one whatever.
Whatever.
All right.
that was whatever. So that was just a thing I just made up for you.
Okay, cool.
Using it for a few jazz things. You know, it was very jazzy, more of a jazz kind of.
I just have a few more items that I wanted to cover with you before we wind up our show for today, and one of which is you were a member of OHM? O-H-M?
Yes, that was interesting. Chris Poland from Megadeth.
Okay, all right.
So that set me up for the Uli John Roth tour pretty good because I got used to playing that heavy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, really good guitar player. Really great, very heavy.
How long did that last?
10 years.
Really?
We were actually the #1 fusion band at the Baked Potato for 10 years. Yeah,
out in
Hollywood.
California there, yeah.
Yeah, California, Hollywood. Yeah, it was great gig. I got to meet all my favourite people through that. I got to meet Terry Bozzio, Vinny. Tony Williams has died, of course. But I got to meet Vinny and Terry Bozzio through the Baked Potato.
Nice.
And you know, a few other people that were really great. Joel Taylor.
Didn't OHM change names at some point in time?
No, they were always OHM when I played with them.
Okay.
I think they're still OHM.
It's OHM something. I think they added something to the name OHM.
I don't think so. Well, the albums, I'm on the live KPFK radio album.
Okay.
And then Circle of Sound and Amino Flaccid Flashbacks, Amino Acid Flashback.
Okay.
So that was the albums I was on.
Oops.
Yes?
Are we okay here?
Yes.
All right. Well, I have one other thing that I wanted to ask you about. When you visited your dad in Colorado.
Yes.
And he was into polo. I don't know if you were into polo. Were you into polo?
Yes, well that's when the gig was, when we played together.
Okay. Oh, you played at the polo grounds?
Yeah, we I was in charge of all the drums, obviously, so all the equipment, the PA, everything. I was in charge of the sound, basically.
Okay.
So we'd go here, take the horses and play polo, and do the polo thing. I never really played polo because I rode a few horses and fell off and wasn't really into it.
Okay.
So I'd set up all the music equipment and everything, and then my dad would get off from the polo and come play, and I'd play the warm-up set while he was getting changed.
Okay.
Or getting, calming down, and then he would come up and play his set with his band, his jazz band.
And it was called the Mile High
Jazz and Polo.
Mile High Jazz and Polo?
Yeah, well, it was Jazz and Polo when I was there. I mean, it may have just been Mile High Polo Club at first.
The double entendre.
Yeah, but eventually it ended up being like really, it was doing really well when we had the jazz going. But of course, Colorado, the weather changes in a minute.
Sure.
So you can have a sunny time and then you can have a whirlwind going around you.
Well, let me ask you, if someone in our listening audience wanted to hire you for a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a circumcision, a corporate function,
I would say don't.
or something else along those lines, would you be available for that?
Yes, no, I would. Again, I can play certain types of music if I'm asked. It just depends on the musicians I'm with. The band I normally play with right now plays 60s classic rock.
And that is, what's the name of that band again?
That's my Kofi Baker's Cream Experience.
Okay.
But I do, other stuff with it, I do Beatles and other stuff, and, when I'm with my Fran Banish, my guitar player, he does, some other stuff, some, David Bowie and things like that he likes. So we can do other stuff, so it depends on, if I'm asked to do a gig like that, I'd have to be asked what kind of music they want, and then I'd have to put the music together to,
Okay.
to make it work.
If someone wanted to reach you for that purpose, how would they do that?
Through the phone number, the drum lessons phone number is probably the best thing.
That's the 630-935-6617.
Yeah, or my Facebook, my official fan page.
Okay.
The Kofi Baker official page.
How do you spell Kofi?
Is a good one to go. You can get all the contacts through that, my management and everybody.
That's Kofi.
Yeah, Baker. And the official Kofi Baker page. There's a Kofi Baker page which I do myself.
Okay.
And good luck with getting anything sensical out of that one. Yeah, so you want to go to the official one for all the dealings with business.
And then I understand you've got a New Year's Eve gig coming up at Beer Geeks in Highland, Indiana.
Yes.
And then you've got something coming up 2 days later on January 2nd at the Roundhouse in Aurora.
Yes.
And those are gigs for Kofi Baker's Cream Experience?
Yeah, we're going to be doing all the classic rock, Cream, Blind Faith,
that should be
some
gas.
Beatles stuff. Whatever, classical rock that happens to come past our minds at the time.
And this is the only band in the world now that can actually approximate the quality of music that Kareem produced back.
Well,
in
yes,
the
because
60s.
I've got really good musicians. I've got Fran Banish, who's with Kepmo, and a bunch of, like, the teacher of guitar to a lot of people in Hollywood and everything. Dennis Keith Johnson, and he's with Survivor and Chase, a couple of other bands he was with. Really good musicians though. They're older guys, you know. I mean, Fran's more my age, but Dennis, I think, you know, in his like 90s, 100, somewhere around there,
Yeah.
110 or something. But he's still going strong. So yeah, it's the band where we do that kind of music, but with the same jamming and feel. We take the same approach.
Music is timeless. It doesn't matter how old the performers are.
Sorry, is that what?
It doesn't matter how old the performers
Yes,
are.
exactly.
The music is timeless.
Yeah.
Or how
Exactly,
young,
yeah.
or how young.
So just the three of you?
Yes, just the three of us, yeah.
All right, that should be a gas. So that's New Year's Eve at Beer Geeks in Highland, Indiana. January 2nd at Roundhouse in Aurora. If anyone is interested in the drum lessons in Lombard, Illinois or Hobart, Indiana, the phone number is 630-935-6617. And in Lombard, that's like 1 mile from Yorktown Mall,
Yeah.
I guess.
And anybody that comes to the gig New Year's Eve, I don't drink, so I can drive them home.
There you go.
Aw.
That's a pretty good offer.
I've got a big truck, we can just pile everybody in the back and I'll just drop them all off.
Cool.
And then there's a book that Kofi wrote. When did you write The Forgotten Foot?
I don't know, it's 4 years ago. I'm actually doing video lessons to go with it now. I'm going to have a website up and running soon called bakerdrumming.com. Hard to remember that one, Baker Drumming. And that's going to actually sell all the video lessons and everything that I'm doing for the book and stuff away from the book.
Cool. But,
So, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't think of a book called The Forgotten Foot is about drumming, but in fact, it's about drumming, yes?
It's about drumming, I hope so. So not many other people are going to get anything out of it, I don't think.
And people don't think of the fact how important the foot is in drumming.
Right, well that's what I was trying to put about, the left foot. It's like driving a car. If you drive an automatic, you're not really controlling the car. If you're driving a stick shift, you're controlling the car because you've got the transmission, you're controlling how
There's
the
a much
transmission
more
works.
intimate relationship with your
Right, so
driving
it's the same
experience.
with drums. You're not really controlling the instrument if you're only playing with 3 limbs. You're 3/4 of a drummer. If all 4 limbs are going, then they should be going, and you're all in there playing drums.
It's a lot to coordinate. You know, it seems like it's a...
Not really, though.
To me, it would be like baffling to try
Yeah,
and-
but you're 105.
Right.
So I mean, you know, the problem is the older you get, the harder it is to learn. Your
I'm only
learning seems to get
104. I
slower.
resent that.
Sorry?
I said, I'm only 104. I
Yeah,
resent
no,
that.
it's the grey hair again. So yeah, I mean, the older you get, the harder it is to learn. But
Yeah.
you can still learn. I've had some older students, and it's good for you because Alzheimer's is caused by, as you get older, you get into patterns. And your brain has synapses, and if you use the same pathway over and over again, when you practice something, you get good at it because the pathway gets hardwired in a sense.
Okay.
It's not so loose. So if you do the same things, you don't learn new things, your brain becomes hardwired. You're not building new synapses, so your brain is going to dissolve. Like if you work out in a gym and you stop working out, your muscle's going to leave you.
Right.
So
Good point.
if you're learning something new, even if you're trying to brush your teeth with your left hand, and it's really awkward to do because your brain is having to think about it. It's having to make new pathways to figure out how to do this because you've done it with your right hand. So you're actually exercising your brain when you're putting yourself in a position where you're doing something uncomfortable. And that's what I love about playing drums, and that's why I always practice, because I'm always learning something new, and I'm always trying to push myself to this. I can't quite do this, so I keep doing it until I can.
Cool.
You know, and I think that's a good thing for your brain to do that as you get older. More important to take on new things and exercise your mind,
Sure,
because
absolutely.
we start getting into ruts and stuff.
Absolutely. Very cool. Very, very nice. And then Kofi Baker's Cream Experience can also be reached at 630-935-6617. Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that you'd like to touch on before we bring this to
We
a
won't
conclusion?
touch on that at all. I'll do that. We'll pop.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
going to have a go at this.
We're ready when you are.
Okay, you ready? Here we go.
Yep.
This is Kofi Baker. Help! I'm in a nutshell. How did I get into this nutshell? Look at the size of this great bloody nutshell. What sort of nutshell has a shell this big? Bloody hell, this is crazy. Alright?
All right, that's
Thank
about all
you.
the show. This is In a Nutshell with Al Weissman.
With Al Weissman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Kofi Baker. I'm in a nutshell with Al Weissman. I'm a nut and he's in a nutshell.
He's a nut too.
And that is a nutshell.
Thank you. Woo.
Copy link, and then I have you on Al Weissman. Oh, I just added him before.
really
Changing
got hurt,
shirts. Oh, you get hit by a car. Oh my God.
Because it's got all of these wires.
That's pretty weird. I like it.
Cool.
So the reason it's the cold and weather's affected it. Oh my God. Tell me when you're ready.
Anytime you're ready.
Okay, I am Kofi Baker. I am a nut in the nutshell, and this is In a Nutshell. How about that?
Ta-da! Thank you. That's awesome.
Sweet and to the point, right?
That's right.
Okay, but this is In a Nutshell with Al Weissman.
With Al Weissman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Kofi Baker. I'm in a nutshell with Al Weissman. I'm a nut and he's in a nutshell.
He's a nut too.
And that is a nutshell.
Thank you. Woo!
In a nutshell.
This is Al Weissman in a nutshell. Today we have the great good fortune of having the opportunity to spend some time with Michael Allman, a musician who's already got one album out. We're going to have another one out pretty shortly. And sir, I would ask you to tell our audience your name, the town in which you presently reside, and a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, my name's Michael Allman. I'm the oldest son of Greg Allman. My band is the Michael Allman Band. I was born in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I currently live in Tampa because I found out that sunsets are better than sunrises. I don't see many 5 o'clocks and 6 o'clocks in the mornings, so I moved to the other coast on Tampa, and I love it over there. So much better music venue and stuff, music scene.
Okay, cool. Well, I understand, of course, that your dad is the great Greg Allman, and I understand that your mom's maiden name was Mary Lynn Sutton. Is that correct?
That is correct. Out of Ormond Beach. She was. My grandfather was the president of Ormond Beach Bank, and my grandmother was the librarian in Ormond. They pretty much ran Ormond in the mid '60s.
Okay. Now, your dad's alive. Is your mom still alive?
Yes. She's battled cancer a bunch, but she is still doing a
Oh,
wonderful
did she?
job.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
She survived the
She's got
cancer.
the arthritis and she's still kicking.
Was she a musical person too?
She plays the piano and whatnot. Mostly she was just a good mom.
Okay, that's good.
That's nice.
That's the good thing. I read in an interview that you gave to the Miami New Times that when asked what you do in the band, you replied, "Lead singer, I hit a few chords on the piano and touch a guitar now and then when I'm writing songs, but I don't really play any instruments."
I do not.
But I also read that you wrote a book of acoustic guitar pieces. Is that true?
It's not.
It's not true.
No, sir.
Okay.
I wrote no book.
Well, did you write acoustic pieces?
No, I don't play. I don't.
Okay.
That's probably Devin. That's the hardest working Allman.
Okay.
That'd be Devin Allman probably.
Did you take any instrument lessons when you were a kid?
Yeah.
And so you never took instrument.
Yeah, we had it. My mom was raising me alone. We struggled hard. I didn't even get to go to the dentist.
All right.
Life was hard.
Well, sometimes
Being
in
alone.
school, they offer these things. Did you take any singing lessons at any time in your life? Any time in your life?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody gives you pointers all along the way, but no, I've had no lessons whatsoever, and I don't know.
All right. I want you to know that I love your bluesy voice. Very, very excellent.
Yeah, Jack Daniels and Marlboro taught me a lot.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think that your smoking interferes with your singing, or do you think that it possibly benefits your singing?
I don't know. I wish I could say, well, I've never smoked, and I don't know. But I know that when I tried it early on in my life, I couldn't. I sang I sang along with Journey and Steve, Styx and things, and high pitched voices and Night Ranger, and I was vastly in love with the 80s music, and that was the voice I could hit when I was younger, 20, and when I tried to start a band, I couldn't do it because that voice didn't fit the style in which I needed to do or wanted to do. So it didn't make any sense, so I gave up and started framing houses and got married and had children and done all kind of weird stuff.
I understand your mom became ill when you were 17 years of age, and you went to live with your dad.
Yeah, I did. That was the first time I lived with him, 17. First time for a lot of stuff, actually.
Well, had you spent very much time with him at all before you were 17?
Not 1 minute.
And between the death of your stepdad and going to live with your dad, that must have been two very traumatic times of your life.
Yeah, it was. Actually, the stepfather died when I was 8 years old. Kelly, I got a sister. My mom and him had that actually changed my world in a ridiculous way. He was a Learjet pilot, and he was adopting me. My name was Michael Green, or was about to be Michael Green, and I went on, and I was going to be a pilot and everything, and then all of a sudden he died, and me and my little sister are sitting there crying because our daddy just died, and my mom chose that particular moment to say, well, you know what, son, your daddy didn't die.
Oh my goodness.
So it was, it was, from that moment on, I don't really know what I don't know what I'd have done. I probably would have loved flying.
Okay.
But it is what it is. So from then on, I found out I was someone else, and that was.
So now, where was your dad living at that time when you were 17? You went to
I
live
have
with him?
no clue.
You went to live with him though.
Oh, we went. Yeah. Oh, at 17. I'm sorry. I was still with the crash. Anna Maria Island, Bradenton. We lived in down right off Bradenton in Florida, West Coast. We lived on Anna Maria Island. We had a nice house right there on the Gulf. He did.
Had he started living with the Boyds yet at that time?
I don't know.
Okay.
There was no one there. It was me and my dad.
Because your dad had just broken up with Cher in 1978.
Yeah, I don't know much about that either.
From what I've read, he had a rough time for the 5 years after that until you came to live with him.
I have no comment. I don't know nothing about it. I talked to her on the phone one time. That's all I know about her. And she got a mouth like a sailor and an ass like a hooker. So I'm good.
In his book, I didn't read the whole book, My Cross to Bear, but I did read some excerpts. And he states that during the 80s...
Page 299 and 300. That's me.
During the 80s, his alcohol abuse was at one of its worst points.
Yeah, it probably was. He's,
did you notice that? Did that affect you?
I did. Well, the only thing that really affected me along his career was, as far as what not to do, was not to do any drugs and be careful with the tattoo people. Not to do any heavy drugs that involve needles or anything. I've never done that. And the tattoo people have to be very careful.
I see.
There's an insane amount of protection against blood transfers.
Sure.
Other than that, no, I stay out of that. And I don't, what he chose to do and what I can see why. It didn't really affect me much, no.
Okay. But somewhere along the line, you met a gal from Michigan.
Yeah, that was Donna. That's the mother of my children. I had 2 boys with her.
Did you meet her in Michigan or something?
No, she came down to Florida on vacation and never left.
Really? Oh, so you guys lived in Florida when you were married?
Yeah. She came down on vacation and stayed there.
From what I read, that was a happy time in your life.
It was great. I was 20 years old, didn't have a care in the world.
Oh, that's
Actually,
cool.
It was right before I went, right after I lived with my father. I can't keep this shit straight, but it's, right in that same time frame.
Okay.
It was nice, but I came back from my father's, and then he came over to the house, and she met him, and we had, a good friendship for a moment, and then a couple of different times we lived together and all that. It was nice. I got 2 boys. They live in Michigan now.
That's nice.
Brandon Michael and Christopher Lenoir.
Oh.
So now, since the end of your marriage, that's when you really reconnected with your music, no?
Yeah, well, no, I tried again. Had a second marriage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, that was actually the first time I connected with the music. It was right after the first marriage. When I tried it then, but that was still like I said, the Steve Perry type voice and the not being able to sound with the blues sound. It didn't fit yet.
Okay.
So I quit. This doesn't make any sense.
I was wondering why that happened.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, songs like Jack and Diane were the only things that could really pop out. It didn't do any good. And I thought, well, John Cougar got that covered. So
yeah.
I don't know how to write like that.
So then there was a second marriage.
There was a second marriage, and we, I lived in North Georgia with her for a long time. It was a good marriage. We had a good. I worked on my own business the whole time. That's when I was a carpenter and owned a handyman business. And I used to have calluses. I don't anymore. Pretty proud of that. I always said one day I'd sit and have to cut them off. I've had swing framing hammer for years.
Oh, wow.
And then decided, you know what, wait a minute. I've had enough of this. Going back into music, so I started the album. Anyway, I guess you've got notes.
Well, when did you when did you and your second wife go your separate ways? If you recall.
I suck at dates. I can't keep track of the dates. I'm still 23 in my head.
Well, your album came out, I believe it was 2008?
Yeah, it was
2006
it came out, that came in 9, but it took me 3 years to get the whole album out. So it was 2007 or somewhere, you know, or right on end of 2006, 2007. We split up. That was, you know, she liked my best friend a little bit more than I did.
Family tale.
It's all fine and good, you know.
So, and I read in an interview from 2012 where you're quoted as having answered the question, how long have you been doing music professionally? And you said, probably about the last 6 years. I've been playing music all my life, though. My album came out 4 years ago, and I've been busy ever since. So that would put your album about.
I mean, to answer that question at this point would be the last 3 years. Life got a whole lot different and better. About 3 years ago when I met Mr. Mark Shane sitting right over there with the acoustic guitar that we're gonna play a song or two. But Mark changed my life a lot. You know, I mean, you know, we work and we have a good time now. We've been at this for 3 years, gone through hell and high water. You know, I'd write that song, but it's taken.
Okay.
But yeah.
So it was. Would you say that you reconnected with your music because your second marriage came to an end, or your second marriage came to an end because you were reconnecting with your music? Or?
No, it was definitely, you know, well, the cancer, I had cancer that was right up smack up in the middle of all that, and that made a whole lot of changes in my head. And when I realized it, and as I was looking, I realized, wait a minute, the marriage isn't all that great. I mean, she's a wonderful girl. She's been a friend of mine, and I'm real proud of her now. Her life's changed a bit later. It took her a little bit longer than me, but her life's all good now, you know, and I don't have any, none of my exes do I have any ill words about. Damn, sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
I had two friends. I had one cousin of mine and a very, very dear friend of mine that had the same kind of cancer that you had.
Oh, yeah, testicle cancer.
One died and one was able to survive.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, the main thing was that I did a transition, and, you know, and I'm quite the alpha male, but during you know, when you lose a testicle, when you lose cancer, or if you have anything that just really traumatizes your body, you're not the same anymore. For a minute anyway, until you realize, okay, well, wait a minute, I am still the same. That was just a dumb moment. But during that moment, I was kind of, I guess, you know, I'll pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. A little wimpy at the time. So it caught, that was the strain, and we were having trouble. So with the testicle cancer and the trauma to, you know, the brain and all. It was snap. It was just done. So you know, when we went on separate ways, I sat down, and the weird part is I was looking through what little stuff I had left, because, you know, she packed up to get whatever, and I found the manager, my band manager, Tom Skinner's. I found my old address book from 10 years ago. I had no idea how I could have still been in the household, and I flipped through it, and Tom Skinner was the last time I tried. He's my best friend for 30 years, and the last time I had tried music, he was there to try and help me through it, and he was the one giving me the advice, letting me know, man, we got to figure out how to get your voice to fit this, or we have to make you put you in a boy band or something. I don't know. But it rang. He answered it, and we hadn't spoke in 4 or 5 years, and I said, okay, that's it. Let's go. He said, okay, what do you want to do? I said, let's start with an album. Hard Labor Creek came out. I wrote some of it. I had been writing it for years. It was all, you know, it was wonderful. So from there, you know, from that moment on, it wasn't her. No, to answer the question, no, it wasn't her. It wasn't me. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. It was all of it.
Okay.
All of a sudden, it was like, Calgon, take me away.
I didn't know that one for a long time. How about your sons now? Are they musical?
They're not. They are not. They're thinking about it. They both are, actually. You know, Christopher can play trumpet. He was in high school, played the trumpet all the way up. Brandon is just more like me. Technically, if you took my good side and my bad side and split me in half, you'd have my sons. You know, Christopher's the hard. He's got to work the hardest, because he's just, and he could play the trombone. He actually had music in him, and I think that the lack of the music now is what's got him a little you know, his brain needs to be playing music, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
And Brandon's just a smart guy. He's just my best son. You know, he's got a great job, brand new trucks, brand new house, brand new everything. You know, he's just the ultimate. If you're gonna have to be, and they don't really. So far, well, they haven't been proud of Daddy until now. You know what I mean? Like, my son's so proud of me now. He's got, you know, he tattooed Allman all across the back of his chest, and I was born as Michael. I mean, I was born in order to save me life. I was born as Michael Hendrick, and I had to change my, you know, and my father signed all the paperwork and everything, and we changed that. But I had already had them, so they were technically born under my first name. So, but. And he never really cared to change it. It didn't matter. He was Brandon Hendrick. He grew up that way. He didn't care one way or the other. But now that I'm doing really, really well, that's a whole nother story. And that makes me a proud daddy. When he got that Allman tattoo, because he had me, he had his initials, you know, with just his Hendrick name. It's still, you know, it's still us. It don't make no difference. But when he got that big old Allman tattooed across his back, it was because he was proud of his daddy, not his grandpa.
Cool. That's excellent.
Yeah, that was a milestone moment for me and my son, because I don't have much of the, you know, me and my father, he's not a father per se. He doesn't, you know, doesn't really, I don't hold that against him in any way, shape, or form. He's doing a lot now. You know, he's Dwayne's daughter's hanging out with him, and that's really kick-ass, because he's having trouble doing. She's being wonderful.
Well, that's good.
Other than that, I don't know a whole lot. I think I pretty well hit that question.
Okay, all right. Now, getting back to your sons, you know, in other words, it doesn't look like they're going to be joining your band soon.
No. Oh, well, no. They're young.
Well, you never know, huh?
But you never know. And it ain't out of the question. If he walked up and said, yeah, hey, I can do this, and he says, yeah, hell yeah, we'll go for it.
Now, you've got several siblings. Most of whom are musically involved.
As they come along, they are, yes.
Dwayne Allman is a pretty accomplished vocalist, guitarist, keyboard player, songwriter in his own band. You guys ever get together?
Wait, Devin. You said
Devin.
Dwayne. You said Dwayne, sir. That's
Devin.
Fine. Just to clarify for the audience.
That's Devin.
Devin. Yeah,
Right.
Devin. I call Devin the hardest working Allman. He has worked and worked and worked and not relied very much on any of the Allman music. He'll do one or two of his shows every so often and whatnot. Whereas I, on the other hand, do, you know, half my shows Allman music. But that's what I want to do. And he's been at it. He's got 4 or 5 albums out. He's done countless things. Devin is just awesome.
Well, that's cool. What about Elijah Blue Allman?
I don't know much about him.
Your dad's son.
I met him.
He's a singer and guitarist with Deadsy, I think.
Yeah, Deadsy. I don't know if he's. That's his band. So I mean, it's up and down. But I mean, I can. You know, it's. I have. You know, Greg Allman's my father, and I have a semi-grounded mother. I could not imagine having Greg Allman and Cher. I mean, that would be tough.
I can understand that.
That's right. So
I think anybody in our audience could understand
I met him once, and I talked to him, and he seems. But we were young. I was in California, and me, Devin, and him were all sitting in one spot. And I had suggested, hey, why don't we do like an Allman Brothers second generation thing?
Cool.
And Elijah says, yeah, man, that'll be great. Let's do that. We'll have it up, and everybody will come in, and they'll start thinking that we're going to play that stuff, and we'll just bust into some heavy metal. Well, that was the last time I ever spoke to him. Not because I don't want to, but we just really ever crossed paths. But yeah. But I mean, if you listen to Deadsy, and he's holding his own great. I mean, that's his style. Our styles are different.
Sure.
You know, just heavily different.
How would you describe your style?
Allman-ish.
Kind of southern bluesy rock.
What time are we getting?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we want to get the song in, Al.
It is 9:42.
Yeah,
It's only been 10, 12
Okay, but he's got to get the song in.
We're almost at the end of the interview, and then I figured that...
All right, downbeats at 10 o'clock.
All right. And there's the...
I hate it when that happens. It's sign language now.
Okay, here we go. Then there's the Layla Almond. She's a nurse. Yeah, she's an hour. And you ever get together with her at all?
Delilah?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, when I lived, the second time I lived at my dad's house, she was there. That's the sibling I have the most connection with, but I haven't spoke to her in a long time.
Ah, okay. And then last but not least is Layla Almond. She's a musician. She's a vocalist and keyboardist, and Picture Me Broken, I think.
Yeah. See, I held her. I believe they've changed the name, and I apologize.
4 Lane.
Yeah, I believe they've changed. I'm not. I held her when she was 1. When her mom came by the house the time I was living there. The island was there, and I held her when she was 1. We've made just a momentary connection. Other than that, we're not a family-oriented bunch of people.
Okay.
We didn't have family to look at, so we don't really have much of a basis.
So that's pronounced Layla, not Layla?
Layla? Yeah, Layla.
Layla. Okay.
Yeah, Layla.
And you have 1 step sibling?
I probably have 50. It's great.
Jazz.
Come on. No. I'm not.
We don't talk about jazz.
Okay.
I got nothing to do with my family.
Okay. And who are the Marshall Brothers?
Oh, there's some buddies of mine up in Cocoa Beach, one of the early bands I worked with.
Okay, so these are not the same guys you're traveling with?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, this is my band now. I'm with my band. This is Michael Allman band now.
All right. Now, there's another album coming up?
There is an album. I have a solo album out, Michael Allman's Hard Labor Creek, and then the Michael Allman band is now currently working on the first album.
That's great. When do you expect it?
Any minute. And if you'd like a song, we're going to show you a song from it right now.
That'd be great.
Right. Woo.
Please.
Is it time for that?
It's
That's
time for
right.
that.
Like an enormous debt, it's finally been paid. What I thought would kill me has left me alive. What could it mean? A new day has arrived. To live for another, one can only survive. We must live for ourselves to feel alive. And all of the trouble I'm leaving behind, because for me a new day has arrived. And we gotta do our life, cause there's happiness to find. And we gotta do our life, cause the darkness gets mixed up sometimes. All of this lesson are yesterday's truth. Something to have, something to do. You've got to stay focused, keeping your dreams in sight. And then for you, a new day will arrive. A new day has arrived. A brand new day has arrived. A new day has arrived. A brand new day has arrived. A new day has arrived. A brand new day has arrived. It's a brand new day.
Nice.
All right, we're good, folks. Hit that button for me on the center.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Love it, man. Okay, just a few more questions and we're done.
I got a haul ass, but hurry.
Okay. Are you available if somebody wanted to hire your services?
Yeah, Michael
For a
Allman
corporate
band.com.
event, a circumcision, a wedding, anything along those lines?
I have friends that take care of that.
A brand new day has arrived. A new day has arrived. A brand new day has arrived. A new day has arrived.
in a nutshell.